there for you.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So this is assignment, what, 8 or 9? Is it 9? 8. Okay, assignment 8. And we're talking about strength-based leadership. And we had to read a book called Strength-Based Leadership by Rath and Conchi. There are 9 questions that we need to respond to and that we're going to be discussing as a group. The first question being, discuss the differences between a leader and a manager, citing valid research in the discussion. In other words, what does the research have to say? For me, leaders lead. Managers like to be in control of other people. I mean, and that's just, to me, that's the bottom line. What I took from that was usually leaders are visionaries and they want to get everybody there. They want to make sure that everybody is on board and they do whatever they feel is necessary to get people on board who will not have their ship sink, if that makes sense. Managers like to just tell people what to do so they don't have to do it. So that was my take on it.
Okay, so for me, leadership, and I'm reading from my answers, leadership and management are similar, but they're also very different. And we did this assignment, I can't remember which one we talked about, leadership versus management. And from Northhouse says that both are concerned with the effective goal of accomplishment and influence and working with people. However, one who is assigned to be a manager is not always a leader. The term leader was used before management, and it kind of goes back to the textiles in the industrial revolution, where they had managers leading, in a textile to, hey, let's get stuff done. But that wasn't necessarily leading people because they weren't trying to grow people. They were just trying to get something accomplished, finish, building cars, making clothes or something like that. It had nothing to do with actually growing people and bringing people together to be a part of a team for one common goal.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I just talked about leadership is concerned with the process of developing mutual purposes, where management is directed toward coordinating those activities to get the job done. In Rath and Conchi, 2008, the book we're reading, it stated effective leaders surround themselves with the right people that will maximize their time. So again, so you have the leaders who understand the vision and what needs to happen, and then they put the managers in place to get that task completed to meet that vision.
Right, managers are going to produce order, consistency. The leadership, we want to change and we want movement. Got to see something different happen.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Question number 2 says, if you spend your life, respond. If you spend your life trying to be good at everything, you will never be great at anything. And just to stay on task for time, if you spend your entire life striving to be proficient in every endeavor, you will never become exceptional in any of them. You need to work on one thing you want to be great at and put your all into that task. Sorry for my misspelling. But basically, I felt like if you're doing too many things, how can you focus on the one thing you need to be great at?
Oh my goodness.
And I do this with my basketball teams, especially their younger kids, and I've kind of coached that way, is that let's be good at let's be really good at one thing instead of trying to be good at everything, because we aren't going to be able to be good at everything. I like to say is, that saying, jack of all trades, master of none.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what happens if you try to do everything. You're going to be, hey, I can do a little bit of everything, but I'm not really good at anything. And as far as administration goes, that's what happens. Like if you're the leader, then you hire based on your weaknesses. I don't have to know how to do, if scheduling is going to be my thing, then as a principal, I'm really good at scheduling, but maybe I'm not so good with EC. Then I need to find an AP who has really got their head wrapped around EC. Hey, you don't have to do scheduling. I need you to take care of my EC department. I'll take care of the scheduling. And I think Rath said it best, like, hey, at best, if you try to do everything, you will only be mediocre. The best you're going to achieve is mediocrity if you try to do everything. In order to be a great leader, you have to be really good at something, and understanding your strength and understanding your weaknesses. And that's what happens. We will surround ourselves by people who complement us in our weaknesses. And from another great book, it says, where I'm weak, you are strong. I think that's the mindset that we have to have in being the leader, and especially in administrative teams.
Yeah, and more or less the same, kind of same concept. Based on the text, we desire in thought, we desire a well-rounded person, they who can and look and sound like they got it all. However, based on the research they completed when they examined the leaders, not all of them had strengths in all the key areas. So rather fine-tune what you have, know what you're good at, so then you can lead the company and become successful as a whole.
All right, number 3, I'm gonna let y'all take it. I'll read it, but I realized I did not answer it, and I don't know why. Somehow or another, I skipped it. While he has spent much of his career in a leadership role, the vast majority of a boss's efforts have been focused on trying to mimic traits of leaders he has known or read about.
And I put, this kind of ties in with number 2 that we just kind of discussed. You need to know your true self, what you're good at, and how you lead, then figure out how to portray that in your vision to obtain the followers. The better you know yourself, the more transparent and honest you can be with your followers, the more they respect you. Sure, watching someone else lead and learning from what works with them is appealing. However, you need to stay true to your true self, so you are consistent with how you're leading, so your followers will less likely perceive you as a leader, or more likely to receive you as a leader. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it's at best imitation and fake leadership. And I get, like, just basketball, Coach K, there are great coaches out there. I can never be Coach K, but I can take from what he does as a great coach and kind of adopt that into what I'm doing, but I got to keep my philosophy as the head of what's going on. If we try to be what someone else, it takes us out of our natural element. So I can be fake and say, oh, this is what Martin Luther King would do. But then when it comes down to this real situation, I won't know how to make the choice or make the right decision for what's going on in the present time if I'm so busy trying to be someone else. And that will eliminate success of what we're doing, because I think the people who are following you, they want the real you. They don't want something that you're portraying or pretending to be, and they will see through that, especially in the emergencies and the times where it's like, hey, I need you to be my leader. I need you to lead me. I need you to make a decision. And you got to think, well, what would such and such do? What is, my hero leader? What would he do? You have to be true to yourself and know what you would do in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number 4, without an awareness of your strengths, it's almost impossible for you to lead effectively. And what I said was, if you are unable to identify the characteristics that make you unique as a person, it will be extremely difficult for you to lead others effectively. We all approach leadership in very different ways due to the fact that our skill sets and experiences have been formed in very diverse ways. You have no choice but to live the truth. Stay true to who you are, celebrate your accomplishments, and put effort into improving areas where you've been told you fall short. So that still goes back to what y'all just talked about. You gotta be true to yourself, because it's harder to be, for me personally, it's harder to be fake than it is to be who I am, and just try to be professional and hope that people just accept me for who I am, because I can't be anybody else as good as I can be myself.
Right. For this question, I think that you have to be aware of your strengths, because I guess I wouldn't say we all, but I do. I lead based on my strengths, and I delegate based on my weaknesses. And if you're not aware of your strength, how can you lead? You become the opposite of the leader that you want to be if you don't know what's going on, you don't know what you're good at. And that goes back to, number 1, trying to be good at all things. Focus on what you're good at with your strength. Yes, you want to try to eliminate some of your weaknesses, but at the same time, I'm not gonna say, oh, I'm weak in this area, so I want to get better at all these things. I want to lean in on what I do very well,
Right.
and, you know, and then go with that. I'm the type of leader that I look for people who can match my energy, while
Mhm.
also being aware that everyone who can still do a good job won't fit in that mold of, hey, I'm energetic, I'm upbeat, I want to be an extrovert. It doesn't make them bad at their job. It just doesn't make them like me.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, and based on that direct quote, it's very accurate. People need to know themselves. They need to know what they're strong at and what they're weak at. If you do not know yourself and you can't stay true to yourself, you're going to be stressed out and trying to implement everything you see others do that's successful for them, which will lead to inconsistencies and mad followers. Again, if you stay true to yourself, you can be your best transparent self and an honest leader. And as in our book on page 84, trust was one of the basic needs of follower and a leader. Trust you, then you'll get more followers.
All right, number 5, all too often leaders are blind to the obvious when it comes to something of critical importance to them, their own personality. Many political and business leaders have self-concepts that are miles away from reality. They simply don't know their own strengths and weaknesses. And I say all too often we try to model ourselves after the leaders that we look up to, never taking into account the unique characteristics of each individual. The characteristics that you appreciate in others may not be the ones that you possess. What ends up happening is that you transform into a person who you are not in reality. On the other hand, there are others who are convinced that certain characteristics they possess make them natural leaders, despite the fact that people who are in charge of believe that they're an entirely different image. So it all goes down to still saying what we said: be true to yourself, be familiar with yourself. Uh-oh.
And for this one, I kind of talked about this. This goes back to, when we did Yordi, that's how we pronounce it, right? That Yordi, the four corners, the window, Yohari. There we go.
The Johari, the
There you go,
Johari
Johari.
window.
Yeah,
Johari
there
window.
you go. I was gonna say, I know there's a funny pronunciation of it. I was trying to remember. But yeah, so going back to that window again, like, how do people perceive you? How do you perceive yourself? What do you present off and what's not knowing? So really breaking down to that. And it's okay to show your true self as a leader. I feel like it's okay to be open. Like, yeah, you don't have to tell them your personal stuff, but if you're again going back to transparency with your followers, it gives them the opportunity to really see yourself, and then they can respect you in that too. So that's what I talked about.
Yeah, I looked at that too. So my dog is barking. I have myself on mute, that's why I wouldn't answer. But to add to that though, when you don't know what your weaknesses are and you're blind to that, then you can cause issues in the workplace that aren't necessary. And I think that's kind of the biggest part of what you guys didn't touch on, is that when we don't do this, we can cause slow building efficacy. Like people who are following us start to mistrust. You can start to hear the chatter in the background, and then the whole team can become dysfunctional. And this is going to cause undue stress among the staff. And there we go, division and everything else that could go wrong. I can't, kind of will happen from not understanding or being blind to what you're doing, and not being able to rally the team around, who you are and your strengths and your weaknesses.
Right.
I'm going to mute myself. So.
Okay. Number 6, respond. A leader needs to know his strengths as a carpenter knows his tools, or as a physician knows the instruments at his or her disposal. What great leaders have in common is that each truly know his or her strengths and can call on the right strength at the right time. This explains why there is no definitive list of characteristics that describes all leaders. So a good leader is skilled in their trade and aware of resources that are available to them. It could be a matter of knowing when you should take charge of a situation or when you should delegate that problem to someone who is more capable of managing it than you are. Having this knowledge may also make it possible for your organization to run more efficiently. So basically, like the song says, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Get at to somebody else who could do it better than you. I mean, even though you're the person in charge, delegating is still a part of being efficient.
Yeah, for me, and responding to this question, I always go back to coaching. That's what I've done my whole life. And I mean, honestly, don't think that it's being an admin is not far from coaching. It's just not with the ball. Like, you got to put the right people in the right places, and you have to understand, like you said, know your toolbox. So it's just like putting players on the court. I'm not gonna put the point guard down in the paint and say, post up and let's throw the ball down there to the 5'2", and have the 6'7" kid out in front bringing the ball down the court. It's about knowing your staff. There are tools. To me, this was like, okay, I got to know my staff. I got to know my tools. Just like I'm coaching some kids, I can coach hard. I can get in their face and demand, hey, I need you to do this. But there's other kids on the court that if I don't stroke them and rub them on the back, I'm not going to get everything that I can out of them. I think part of being a leader is getting everything you can out of a person, like getting their best out of them. And you can't do that if you don't know them. And if you try to lead or coach everyone the same way. It's about being fair, but everyone can't be led or coached in the exact same way. So there's a time and a place for each thing, each tool, each skill that we possess, and knowing when to use each of those is crucial. And a good leader knows when to do that.
Right. And I kind of like tying off that, I address how just like students learn different ways, as teachers, we have to differentiate lessons. So it's the same concept. Leaders need to know their followers' strengths. They need to know their own strengths and how to utilize that and grab for the greater good. And again, not all leadership qualities grab all people. So, that servant leadership we talked about prior, that would be great to utilize, grabbing your followers to ultimately obtain the vision.
All right. Number 7, respond. While solving difficult problems is an essential part of effective leadership, identifying opportunities for the future plays a much more important role in creating hope and optimism. This is the motivation behind development of a vision and mission, vision and mission statements. Okay, can't talk. The objective is to have a clear picture of what you want your future to look like and a strategy for how you intend to get there. Make sure you have faith in what you are promoting so that people who follow you will have the same level of enthusiasm that you do. Don't just talk the talk. Show them you are willing to do whatever it takes to make the organization great and that you are in the trenches with them. Don't just be a talker. Show them you're willing to be in the trenches with them. So you got to let them know that you're willing to get down and dirty with them and that you're not just going to be the person who's pointing and telling them what to do, that you put out this vision and you don't really believe in it. Because if you don't believe in it, they're not going to believe in it.
Right. And you again. Oh, my bad.
Shane, how much time do we have left?
So about 10 minutes. So
Okay.
basically,
10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go. Sorry, I put my dog outside. She was just getting way too loud. So according to Gallup, the highest level executives reported that they spent almost all of their time reacting to the needs of the day instead of initiating for the future. And for me, hope is the future. And so hope gives people the want to be the best, to work harder at their jobs or their assigned tasks. As a leader, hope is the single most important thing that we can give to our staff. And hope is not about what's happening today because we're already there. If things are going bad, we need to have hope that they're going to get better. If they're already better, we need to hope that they're going to get even better than what they are. Because once hope is lost, we start to lose our people. And so I know the question talks about the future, but for me, hope of having a better future of what you're doing. Like, we're all here for tomorrow, our kids, what's going to happen to them tomorrow, the hope of the future, the hope of, even for us as teachers, like, what are we going to do more? How are we going to leave our legacy? And so once we don't, or we stop working for what's going to happen tomorrow, then our people will be more likely to leave. They become unproductive, they get stuck, they're in a rut, and they eventually lose their light. So I think we have to continually give people something to look forward to tomorrow. Hey, the sun's going to come up tomorrow. The rain's going to stop. It's going to be better tomorrow. And so for me, I'm always going to, as an admin, I'm always going to be about like the hope of the future. And this is us. And how can we give light to that, not only for ourselves, but also for our students?
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. I mean, based on the survey that they said, that hope was one of the 4 concepts that they look for, that followers look for in a leader. So, giving them that vision, showing them that support they can get there. Because oftentimes you see, just like principals, I'm sure you guys experienced that the principal said, okay, this is our vision, go about it. But there's no support. So it kind of like loses your motivation, especially as a beginning year teacher. So you see a lot of turnover. So as a leader, we have to give that support to make them feel all warm and fuzzy, if you will. So they feel like they'll be able to reach that. So hope is crucial in that as a leader.
Okay. I know we showed us. Are we supposed to discuss our strengths or what our results here in the Zoom?
Oh, wait, don't we have two more questions?
No, we have 2 more, but that's what I'm saying, because we're running out of time.
Oh, we have
we got 8 minutes.
7 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think we get these questions in and then
Okay.
do the results on the part 2. So we have part 2 video.
Okay. Leaders stay true to who they are, then make sure they have the right people around them. And this is still what we had already discussed in the questions beforehand. A true leader is responsible for their actions and expects the same from their team. They should work hard at setting an example for others. Being accountable means admitting your mistakes and learning from them. Creating an environment that promotes responsibility can boost team performance and trust, because it helps everyone to know that they can rely on one another. Nobody wants to work for somebody they can't trust.
Right.
Yeah, I think that this also is kind of like a wishy-washy leader. Like, one day you come in because somebody has a great idea and like, oh yeah, let's do this. And then the next day somebody comes in and it's like, oh, let's do this, or something that they read. Hey, what are they doing, at the school down the street? Oh yeah, we should do that. So I think that if a leader isn't true to who they are, to their identity, that the people around you don't feel secure. They don't really feel like, that you are like a trusted leader. Like, everybody's gonna be like, oh, what are we gonna do this week? What's new this week? What's popular? And Gallup says leaders must continually invest in each person's strength and build better relationships among group members to sustain growth. So that means that you've got to be true to yourself. And so that the people around you are feeling secure. So it's just like a relationship. So if your partner isn't secure in your relationship, everything that you do, they're going to doubt you. Oh, did you really go to dinner? Did you have dinner? Were you out with the boys? Everything's going to be questioned about what you do. But when you make the people who you're leading, they're secure. You can tell them, hey, we're going to go out to the cow pasture today. They're like, hey, let's go. What we doing there? I'm with you. They're going to be ready to follow you to the end, no matter what you ask them to do. So surrounding yourself with like-minded people who have the same belief in your core beliefs, but also who will bring out the strengths that you don't have as a leader. So, like, you got to, like I said, people got to be kind of on the same page with you. We all have that same core belief, but we may go differently about how to get there.
Yeah. And I said the same. Staying true to yourself, and that's been kind of like the redundant thing throughout these last 8 questions. And then, it kind of goes back to the first one. As a leader, you know how to pick your people to manage the tasks. So you'll lead it, then you get your good followers that can be able to get the task done to meet the ultimate vision.
All right, number 9. The most effective leaders also get people to follow. which I think is still very similar to question number
Right.
8.
Mhm.
A true leader should place a higher priority on their connections with people of their team than their leadership status. So in order to accomplish this goal, team leaders should collaborate with members of their team rather than only delegating responsibilities to them. Because to me, that goes back to just being a manager.
Right.
They need to make it a priority to spend time getting to know each member on an individual basis and cultivating connections with them on a more personal level, because they are aware that their efforts are respected. The members of your team will experience an increase in their level of motivation when they feel valued on an individual level. So
Yeah, that's
know your
right.
people.
Yeah, exactly. Going back, and then that's discussed in this question, the servant leadership. So get to know your people. What do they want? What do they desire? How can you support them get what they want to obtain, so they feel good about themselves, and then they'll be able to produce the work and follow suit with your leadership.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think so. We go back to a long time ago, how Moses got a whole culture of people, everybody, all the Israelites to leave Egypt. He gave them hope that we will one day be free. And they trusted him and they followed him. Eventually they kind of got a little crazy and didn't want to follow him. But in order to get people to follow you, you got to give them hope. You got to be the foundation. You got to have stability. You got to show them compassion. If you say, you know what, just like, again, coaching my team, all my kids, hey, I love you every day. I love you. I'm gonna yell at you. I'm gonna get on your butt, but I love you. End of the day, nothing else matters except the fact that I love you. I care about you. And they trust me. They trust, their parents trust that I'm gonna have their best interests in mind. And I think the same thing, we're just bigger people. Kids or adults are just, bigger sized people. And they want the same things that young kids want. They want trust, they want compassion, they want to feel something that's stable, and they want to have hope. So, and great leaders also develop other leaders, and they turn them into effective leaders. Like my principal, so I went to him this year and he said, hey, I'm going to grow you. I'm going to make you the best principal you can be. And I said, okay, whatever you ask me to do, I'm going to do it. Because I felt like he really, he saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. And he gave me that hope that I could be really, really good. And also, good leaders leave legacies. What will continue to grow once we are long gone?
Yeah, I think that when you have people around you who are motivating and people who are, like my AP just kind of blows me out of the water, how understanding she is. I have never, ever, ever had an AP tell me, take the day off. If you're tired, take the day off, because you're not giving us your best. You're not giving the kids your best. Just take the day off and catch up on what you need to do. Never, ever, ever have I had an AP tell me that. And I walked away from that conversation thinking, wow, she really cares about the people that work for her. So
Right.
it makes a difference. It really does. So you know what? And I apologize, y'all. I just looked up top and I saw that little thing with the time ticking. I kept asking y'all how much time we got.
Yep. So let's go ahead and it says 4 minutes.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and shut it down so we don't get locked out. If you want to
Okay.
close it, Nari, and then we will come back.
Let me see if I can, let's see, stop share. And, oh, no.
So that was the end of our first round. We got through the first 9 questions. We're going to shut this link down. And Dr. Stedman, Dr. Revis, we're going to send link 2 with the discussion of our results from the Strength Finders tests. All right, guys.